AI bots tried to kill off Texas star Willie Nelson this week, but he's having none of it, okay? He hopped on social media to set things straight.
At 93, Willie Nelson isn't slowing down. He's quietly deciding what finally makes it all stop. He's buried his son, outlived legends, fought off the IRS like it was a full-time job, and survived enough health scares to fill a medical textbook. And still, he's out there. Same worn guitar, same endless highways, same voice that sounds like it's telling secrets at midnight. So when Willie admits there's one thing that could make him call it quits for good, it hits differently. Because trust me, it's not age, it's not an illness, and it's definitely not what anyone expected. The last highwayman standing. Let's start with the part that keeps country music fans up at night. The part nobody really likes to talk about out loud, but everybody is thinking. Willie Nelson is the last one left. Think about that for a second. The Highwaymen, that glorious, ridiculous, impossible supergroup of outlaws, was once four of the biggest names in country music history all crammed onto one stage together. Johnny Cash, Waylon Jennings, Willie Nelson, and Kris Kristofferson. Between 1985 and 1995, they recorded 3 major label albums and produced the #1 hit, Highwayman. They were the Mount Rushmore of outlaw country, and they knew it. 4 legends, 4 voices, 4 decades of hard living, all colliding in one glorious, rebellious sound. Then, one by one, the lights started going out. Waylon Jennings passed away on February 13th, 2002 at the age of 64 following complications related to diabetes. Waylon, the growling, leather-jacketed architect of outlaw country, gone. Less than 2 years later, Johnny Cash died on September 12th, 2003 at age 71. The man in black, silenced forever. And then, just when Willie and Kris Kristofferson were left to carry the torch together, 2 old outlaws keeping each other's spirits up, Kristofferson died on September 28, 2024, leaving Nelson as the last living member of the Highwaymen. Let that sink in. The last one standing. At 93 years old, Willie Nelson carries the memory of 3 legends who were once his closest musical brothers. Every time he walks out on that stage, he walks out for all 4 of them. So does Willie Nelson feel the weight of that? Does he lie awake in the dark thinking about the names that aren't there anymore? Well, here's where it gets interesting, because the answer reveals something profound about how this man has chosen to face the inevitable. But first, we need to go back, way back, to the darkest moment of Willie Nelson's personal life, the one that rewrote everything. To understand how Willie carries that weight now, you have to understand what he survived back then. Because the truth is, Willie Nelson has already stared down loss, failure, and the kind of loneliness that breaks most people long before age ever gets a chance. There was a time when Willie wasn't the relaxed, bandana-wearing legend we recognize today. He was struggling, broke, and watching his dreams slip through his fingers. Nashville didn't quite know what to do with him. His voice was too different. His phrasing didn't fit the polished system. And behind the scenes, his personal life was unraveling in ways that cut even deeper than professional rejection. That period forced Willie into a kind of emotional reckoning. Not the loud, dramatic kind, but a quiet, internal shift. The kind that changes how a person sees time, success, and even death. He began to detach from the idea that everything had to last forever. Instead, he leaned into the moment, into the music, the road, the connection with the audience right in front of him. And that mindset is exactly what you're seeing today. Because when Willie steps onto that stage now, he isn't carrying the Highwaymen like a burden. He's carrying them like a continuation. Waylon's grit, Cash's gravity, Kris's poetry, it's all still there, just filtered through the last voice standing. There's no denial in him, no illusion that time can be outrun. If anything, Willie seems to have made peace with something most people spend their entire lives avoiding. He understands that the music outlives the men, that the stories don't end when the voices fade, they echo. And maybe that's the real reason he keeps going. Not to prove anything, not to hold on, but to keep the echo alive just a little longer. Christmas Day, 1991, the loss no parent survives, whole. There is a loss that no amount of fame, no number of hit records, no tour bus or adoring crowd can ever prepare you for. And Willie Nelson knows exactly what that loss feels like. The year was 1991, and Willie Nelson's son, William Hugh Nelson Jr., Billy Nelson, was 33 years old. On Christmas Day, Billy died by taking his own life in his log cabin home in Davidson County, Tennessee. Christmas Day, the cruelty of the timing is almost incomprehensible. And what makes the tragedy even more devastating is that nobody saw it coming. Not really. Bonnie Garner, a spokeswoman for Nelson's management company, said, "Willie was here in Nashville the week before last and spent some time with Billy, and everyone thought everything was fine." But everything was not fine. Billy struggled with depression leading up to his death, despite efforts to overcome his mental health challenges. He had also battled alcohol abuse, which led to legal troubles. Christmas time held difficult memories for Billy. His mother, Martha, had died around Christmas 1989, and he had separated from his own wife, Janet Caldwell, who had custody of their young daughter, Raylyn, that same December. Willie Nelson had been working on a gospel album with his father. He had been planning to release an album of gospel tunes he'd written, including I Can Live Forever and My Body's Just a Suitcase for My Soul. That title alone, My Body's Just a Suitcase for My Soul, reads differently now, doesn't it? Like a man was already making peace with something nobody around him understood. Willie would later say, I've never experienced anything so devastating in my life. He didn't abandon his son's music. Willie completed and released the album Peace in the Valley in 1994 and included a special duet between father and son, with Billy singing lead vocals on My Body's Just a Suitcase for My Soul. It was his way of keeping Billy alive, of refusing to let the darkness have the final word. But here's the question that haunts everything that comes after. How does a man survive that? How does Willie Nelson, who had already been through multiple failed marriages, financial ruin, and health crises, absorb the death of his child and still get back on a bus and play music for strangers? The answer is complicated, and it's deeply connected to how Willie thinks about life, death, and the strange thing that happens when you've lost enough people that the fear of your own end starts to feel different. The IRS, the feds, and the year the government tried to break Willie Nelson. Now, hold on, because we're not done with 1990 and 1991. You thought losing his son was the only crisis Willie was navigating? Oh no, honey. Willie Nelson was fighting on two fronts simultaneously, and one of them involved the full force of the United States federal government. On November 9th, 1990, the federal government seized all of the assets of country singer Willie Nelson, freezing his bank accounts and padlocking his real estate holdings. The IRS claimed he owed a staggering sum. The IRS, estimating a total tax debt of $32 million, alleged that much of his income was hidden in tax shelters. A result, the singer said, of mismanaged earnings and bad advice from his accountants. $32 million. And according to his own daughter, Lana Nelson, he didn't have $1 million. He probably didn't have $30,000. They took nearly everything. Federal agents seized Nelson's properties in 6 states and assets, which included boxes of master tapes, touring equipment, gold and platinum records, and clothes. His Texas ranch, his recording studio, his gold records, the physical symbols of a career built on decades of sacrifice and genius. But here's the detail that tells you everything you need to know about Willie Nelson's character in a crisis. Before the IRS agents arrived, Willie had his daughter remove his beloved guitar, Trigger, from his Texas home and ship it to him in Hawaii, where he was golfing when the feds raided his home on November 9th, 1990. He didn't try to hide cash, he didn't try to flee, he saved his guitar. As long as I got my guitar, Willie said, I'll be fine. And then, in a move that is so quintessentially Willie Nelson that it almost doesn't seem real, he turned the whole disaster into an album. He recorded the IRS tapes Who'll Buy My Memories, featuring him and his guitar without the accompaniment of his band. And the IRS collected $3.6 million from the sales of the album. After a payment of $9 million during the next 5 years, Nelson's debt was satisfied. His fans, meanwhile, showed up to the government auctions and bought his possessions, then handed them back. Nelson's friends organized and bought up much of the booty with lowball bids and held it for him so he'd eventually get it back. That included his Texas ranch, which a fan bought as a way of thanking him for farm aid. So in the span of roughly a year, 1990 to 1991, Willie Nelson had his entire financial empire seized by the federal government and buried his son on Christmas Day, all at the same time. And yet, this is the part that should make your jaw drop. He didn't quit. He didn't fold. He didn't disappear into bitterness or grief or bankruptcy. He got back on the road. He kept playing music. He kept showing up. What kind of philosophy does a person need to survive all of that? What does Willie Nelson know about living and ending that the rest of us are still trying to figure out? The answer isn't complicated, but it's incredibly hard to live out. Willie Nelson learned the hard way that everything you think you own can vanish overnight. Money, property, status, even the people you love most, none of it is guaranteed. And once you truly accept that, something shifts. Fear starts to lose its grip. Willie has said more than once that he doesn't dwell on what's gone, not because it doesn't hurt, but because staying there doesn't help. When the IRS took his belongings, he didn't spend years fighting the loss emotionally. He focused on what he still had, his music, his hands, his voice, and the road ahead. When he lost his son, the grief didn't disappear, but neither did his purpose. That's the thread running through everything. Purpose. For Willie, music isn't just a career, it's a lifeline. It's how he processes pain, how he connects, how he keeps moving forward when standing still would be easier. And that's why he never stopped touring, never stopped recording, never stopped showing up. Because stopping would mean letting everything that tried to break him finally win. So when you see Willie Nelson today, older, slower, but still stepping onto that stage, you're not just looking at a survivor. You're looking at a man who made a decision decades ago about how he was going to face loss, failure, and time itself. He was going to keep going, no matter what was taken, no matter who was gone, no matter how heavy it got. He keeps going. The real reason he's not afraid of the end Here's where we get to the heart of it. The thing everybody online is talking about. The thing wrapped in dramatic YouTube thumbnails and breathless voiceovers. Willie Nelson reveals the real reason he wants it to end. Let's be honest about what we actually know. Willie Nelson, at 92 and now 93, has said something that sounds shocking to people who haven't lived his life, but makes complete sense to anyone who has. He is not afraid of dying. He is, in his own way, at peace with the idea of it ending. And the reasons aren't dark or despairing. They are, if you look closely, almost the most alive thing about him. After losing his son, after watching Waylon Jennings go, after Johnny Cash left, after Chris Christopherson, his last Highwayman brother, took his final exit in September 2024, after fighting the IRS and winning, after emphysema began slowly stealing his breath, after COVID knocked him sideways. After all of it, Willie Nelson told the Associated Press something remarkable. I feel like I'm in pretty good shape physically. I'm 91 plus, so, I'm not worried about it. I don't feel bad. I don't hurt anywhere. I don't have any reason to worry about dying. No reason to worry about dying from a man who has been handed more reasons to worry about dying than almost anyone alive. His longtime belief in reincarnation has been noted by those around him as something that made processing grief, even the grief of losing Billy, somewhat more bearable. Willie Nelson doesn't see death as an ending in the traditional sense. He sees it as a transition. He always has. And when you've watched enough people you love make that transition, your son, your bandmates, your friends, it stops being abstract. It becomes familiar. Not welcome exactly, but familiar. His daughter Amy put it simply, and it might be the most telling thing anyone has said about him. I think it's literally keeping him alive, referring to his music and his continued desire to perform. The music is not what he does, despite everything he's been through. The music is how he's been through everything. It is the reason he survived the IRS. It is the reason he survived Billy. It is the reason he can stand on a stage at 93, managing emphysema, performing seated, and still make a room feel like the whole world makes sense for 3 minutes and 40 seconds. He has said he can't smoke anything anymore, his lungs having already registered their protest. So now it's a few edibles and a lot of music. The man adapts. He always has. Trigger, the one thing that will end it all. So when does it actually end? When does Willie Nelson finally put down the guitar and say, all right, that's enough? He's told us, clearly, repeatedly, and the answer is both poetic and heartbreaking. When Trigger goes, I'll quit. The 92-year-old icon stated simply, Trigger, his Martin N20 nylon string guitar, the one he's been playing since 1969, the one he rescued from a drunk fan who destroyed his previous guitar at a gig in Helotes, Texas, the one he instructed a luthier to modify by moving the pickup from his broken Baldwin guitar into the Martin, creating his signature amplified acoustic sound, the one he named after Roy Rogers' horse, the one he saved from his burning ranch in Bandera, Texas, the one he hid from IRS agents and had shipped to Maui for safekeeping. Willie's beloved Trigger is now 56 years old. It's beat up, and it's looked like that for quite some time. There is a hole worn through the top near the bridge from decades of Willie's flat pick scraping at the wood. The steel frets have been worn down from smooth ridges to wavy lines from the fretting of nylon strings over more than 10,000 performances. The guitar has been repaired, re-glued, and coaxed back to life more times than anyone can count. Many builders have made custom instruments to serve as a backup for Trigger. None of them have come close to hitting the mark. Willie's team even found another N20 only 3 or 4 serial numbers away and modified it with a replica bridge in the hopes of one day retiring Trigger. Willie never really played it, because Trigger isn't just a guitar. Trigger is the relationship. Trigger is the through line of a life. That guitar was there for Shotgun Willie, for Red-Headed Stranger, for Stardust. It was there for the IRS crisis, literally hidden in an attorney's house to keep it safe. It was there after Billy died. It was there when Waylon went, and when Cash went, and when Christopherson went. Every night Willie Nelson has walked out on a stage for the last 56 years, Trigger has been in his hands. In his own words, my battered old Martin guitar, Trigger, has the greatest tone I've ever heard from a guitar. If I picked up the finest guitar made this year and tried to play my solos exactly the way you heard them on the radio or even at last night's show, I'd always be a copy of myself and we'd all end up bored. But if I play an instrument that is now a part of me and do it according to the way that feels right for me, I'll always be an original. When Trigger goes, Willie goes, not because he is tired of living, but because without Trigger, the performance wouldn't be Willie Nelson. It would be someone else wearing his hat. Still here, still creating, still the original. Here's the part those dramatic YouTube thumbnails conveniently skipped. Willie Nelson is not slowing down. At 93, he's still very much in motion. He performed in North Carolina on April 28th, 2026, literally the day before his birthday, with more dates lined up through May and 12 stops on the Outlaw Music Festival starting in July. That's not a farewell tour, That's a schedule. And then comes the real flex. Dream Chaser, his 79th solo album and 156th overall, drops May 29th. Yes, 156. And it includes a track co-written with Bob Dylan. At 93, he's also a 2026 Grammy nominee for Oh What a Beautiful World, while his son Lucas Nelson landed a nomination in the same cycle. Family business, but make it historic. Health-wise, he's adjusted, not retired. Seated performances, careful pacing, real-life wisdom. And those death rumors? Willie saw the AI hospital photo, rolled his eyes, and basically laughed it off. At this point, nothing is taking him out but his own decision. What it all means. So let's come back to the question we started with. What is the real reason Willie Nelson says he's ready for it to end? It's not depression. It's not despair. It's not that he's given up on life after watching his son die and his bandmates fade one by one. It's the opposite of all those things. Willie Nelson has lived so fully, so completely, so recklessly, so generously that he has arrived at something most people spend their entire lives searching for: genuine acceptance. The kind that only comes from having actually lived through everything life can throw at a person and come out the other side still holding your guitar. He lost his son on Christmas Day. He watched 3 of his closest musical brothers die before him. He owed the federal government $32 million and turned the whole disaster into an album. He survived COVID, emphysema, collapsed lungs, and more health crises than most people half his age. And through all of it, every single bit of it, Trigger was in his hands and the music kept playing. He said it himself, plainly and without drama. Being on the road and playing for the fans is what I love to do. We don't get to do as many shows as we used to, so every night out there means a little more. Every night means a little more. That's not a man who wants it to end. That's a man who has made peace with the fact that it will, and who has decided deliberately and defiantly to make every remaining moment count. When Trigger finally goes quiet, when that battered, hole-riddled 56-year-old Martin guitar plays its last note, Willie Nelson says he'll put it down. Not because he's afraid of what comes next, not because grief has broken him, but because without Trigger, the song would finally be over. And that is the only ending a man like Willie Nelson would ever accept, on his own terms, with his oldest companion in his hands, having given every last note to the people who showed up to listen. The real reason Willie Nelson is ready for it to end? Because he's done everything, survived everything, loved everything, and at 93, with a new album dropping, a Grammy nomination in hand, and the ghost of 3 highwaymen riding alongside him every night, he's still not done yet. Until Trigger says so, Willie Nelson is still on the road. And honestly, long may he run. If you or someone you know is struggling with thoughts of suicide or mental health challenges, please reach out to the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline by calling or texting 988.